Okay. All right. So we talked about the Samkhya philosophy, which is, you could call it their creation story, but it's not the whole story. There's also part of the story involving Shiva and Shakti, which is female and male energy. But it gives us a description of the separation, or not the separation, but the two components of this of our being, which is the Purusha and the Prakriti, meaning the spirit, and then Prakriti is the material world, like basically all of creation. And the Purusha is what we're aiming to get in touch with and to deepen our connection to through the practice of yoga. We want to kind of, you could say, discipline the physical in order to augment the function of the spiritual, or the spirit, or the Purusha. So it's almost like not really subduing, but sort of. It's not allowing ourselves to be ruled by the physical world or by our physical bodies, but being our own masters, right? So chapter 11 goes into the yamas and niyamas, and then chapter 12 goes into the other four. That's these ones here, the other four elements of the eight-limbed path of Ashtanga Yoga. So there's 8 limbs to Ashtanga Yoga. We already talked about several of them: asana, pranayama, and then the next are yamas, niyamas, and the other 4 are pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Are these sounding familiar? Because I think we've gone over them before. Sounding familiar? So yamas are attitudes towards others. They're principles of, or values of how to interact, to govern our interactions with others. Ahimsa means non-harming. Satya means truthfulness. Asteya is non-stealing. Brahmacharya is movement toward the essential. It's also been originally actually described as abstinence, but not celibacy. It's basically moderation, in use of sexual energy, and that translates in all things, moderation. And also to, And then aparigara is to take only what is necessary, and it's also described as non-greediness. Okay, so ahimsa, go back, non-harming. So it's been also described as the vegetarian lifestyle because you don't want to harm any animals. It's this thing where if you're in a yoga studio, it's really funny, but if you're teaching a yoga class and there's a bug in the room, we typically don't smash it. We pick it up and take it outside. It's kind of silly to talk about, but it just is kind of the culture of yoga teachers that that's what you do. And can you guys see my notes? I thought that Manny was here, so was trying to see if I could let him in. But the book, The Heart of Yoga, has some really great explanations of these different principles. It puts it in real life. So in ahimsa, It also means kindness towards ourselves. So, for example, if you're a vegetarian yogi, which we aren't, and there's no other food, would you're in some kind of dire emergency situation and the only thing available was meat, you're going to go ahead and eat the meat because you want to preserve your life, right? So it's within reason. It's sustainable. You want it to be sustainable. And he also says that it also has to do with our duties and responsibilities. So if we have a family, for example, and we need to take care of them, so whatever you need to do, whether that's, let's see how it puts it. We still have something to do in this life, such as family responsibilities. Then we should avoid doing anything that may cause us harm or prevent us from carrying out our duties. So in every situation, we should adopt a considered attitude. That is the meaning of ahimsa. Okay, so it's within reason. And like, for example, me, the vegetarian thing, I did try it. I don't know if I've told this story before. I did try it while I was in 200-hour training, because during that training, we were in residence. We stayed at the training center. We were only served vegan food. So it was 2 weeks of no animal protein. And me personally, that did not feel right for my body. And I've also heard from others, I've talked to others who've had actually had health problems as a result of it. So it's something, the vegetarian or the vegan idea is something it's not something to be done casually. If you want to do it, if anybody talks to you about it, and they will ask you, are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? Because that's the image of a yogi. So you can give them, an honest answer. You don't have to promote it, in other words, because you're a yoga teacher and that's part of ahimsa. Ahimsa simply means non-harming in a sustainable way. Okay? All right, satya, truthfulness. Questions about that? No. Okay. But I have to add that I do prefer to consume meat or fish that's not full of chemicals, or that haven't been. I try to buy happy meat when I can. We call it happy meat in our house. Happy cows, happy chickens. When I do that, it naturally limits our meat intake, which is actually better for your health anyway, because it's more expensive. Right? But lately I have been finding other alternatives, like, oh, there he is. I'm also trying to add more tofu in our diet, just for me, because not everybody likes it. But, just non-harming, not just other creatures, but yourself, right? Being mindful of what you put into your body. All right, satya, truthfulness. So satya means to speak the truth. But in the book, he says, but you don't want to speak the truth if it's unpleasant or if it's going to hurt someone. So it says, speaking the truth which is pleasant. Do not lie, even if the lies are pleasing to the ear. That is the eternal law, the dharma, to be truthful. That's pretty simple. Okay. Asteya. Hi, Manny. Welcome. We're just talking about chapter 11 in the Heart of Yoga book, and it's going over the yamas and the niyamas. So right now we're in the yamas, which are the principles and attitudes in our relationship with others. And then asteya is to steya means to steal. So asteya means non-stealing. Don't take anything that doesn't belong to us. And if we're entrusted by someone, someone confides in us, we need to honor that and not to take advantage of others. So it's pretty simple. Brahmacharya, let me see if I can add to my explanation. Okay, so the word char, the word is made out of the root char, which means to move, the word Brahma, which means truth, in terms of one essential truth. We can understand brahmacharya as a movement toward the essential. It is used mostly in the sense of abstinence, particularly in relationship to sexual activity. More specifically, brahmacharya suggests that we should form relationships that foster our understanding of the higher truths. If sensual pleasures are part of those relationships, we must take care that we keep our direction and do not get lost. On the path of serious, constant searching for truth, there are certain ways of controlling the perceptual senses and sexual desires. This control, however, is not identical with total abstinence. So India does value family. So we engage in sexual activity and we have families. And then after a certain point in your life, this was really interesting. It says, when you're in the stage of your life after you've had your children, after you've had your family, you've raised your family, it says, fourth stage of life, everyone can become a sannyasin, a monk or nun. But a sannyasin must then beg for food from people who are still involved in family life. The Upanishads advise the student to marry, raise a family immediately upon finishing his or her studies. That is why brahmacharya does not necessarily imply celibacy. Rather, it means responsible behavior with respect to our goal of moving toward the truth. So I think that's a very good explanation of that. Okay, aparikara, taking only what is necessary, or non-greediness. All right, I think that one is also easy to understand. So especially as yoga teachers, and this is not necessarily, well, kind of with you too, Manny, because you have your own studio, but when you start maybe going out to teach and you're going to get paid and people will ask you, well, what do you charge? That's always been a really difficult thing for me to do, because it's hard for me to evaluate my own worth in terms of money, right? So I look up comps, I look up online, I search, what are yoga teachers getting paid for this or that or the other, for privates, for group classes, depends on the kind of venue that you're teaching at. Local yoga studio versus corporate. So corporate, you can charge more, and it also depends on your level of training, so, and your experience. So for example, Manny can charge more than Amanda or Kyla because you're new. Manny has more experience, right? So he can, that makes sense. Yes, Manny.
I don't charge because if I'm the one teaching, everything is free. If
Oh,
I'm paying,
really?
because yeah, I practice aparigara, and one of the things
Wow.
that yoga in the Philippines is not accessible to many, because number one, one of the reasons why people do not go to yoga because in the Philippines it's expensive.
Oh.
Uh, $10 to $15 is too much for the Filipinos.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to cover it somewhere between 400, 300 to $400. So I think 30 to $40.
Mm-hmm.
So I know in the US it's more expensive than that, but that is the
30
no
to
no
$40 a month, you
no
charge?
no yeah, $50. That's about no about $100 for 1 month. Yeah, for 1 month. If you want to have unlimited access, $100.
Unlimited, yeah.
Yeah, unlimited
Yeah.
access.
So what do you do, some kind of discount for people who can't afford that, or how do you do that?
When it comes to private session, meaning a group of people who would like to have their own session, I follow the practice of of professionals, doctors, and even lawyers here.
Mm-hmm.
Charge what the trade carries. If you feel that the private student can afford it, you charge higher to cover for your other income.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not, you can see that that person is going there because he's undergoing some therapy for say cancer, and he cannot afford to be paying so much, and he
Mm-hmm.
cannot afford to pay for a therapy. So we lower
Oh,
the
okay.
price based on that. And if you are sick, you are some going through that, we call it the people with disability discounts up
Yeah.
to 20 to
Okay.
30%.
That's nice. Yeah. That brings me up to the idea of a seva.
Yeah, Seva.
Seva.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
service
so a seva is I don't want to call it charity, but it's a service. That's a good way
service.
to do it. Yeah, service. So
Don't, yeah,
you
don't expect
right, you balance your offering with some kind of service. Like for me, I teach a Wednesday noon free class online, and it's open to anybody who wants to join. It started out as my corporate class that went online, and then when that they couldn't sustain me anymore, there wasn't any more of their employees taking the class, I just kept it going. So a couple of the people that were with that corporate that have moved on to other jobs still come, and then I open it up to people in our church if they want to join. It's really small. I mean, we have maybe 2 to 3 a week, but I keep that going, and I need to advertise it more to invite more people. So that's my seva offering, and it keeps your yoga teaching practice um, with heart, I guess you could say. It gives
yeah.
it, yeah, right. So it's also part of what Yoga Alliance has tried to promote, which is accessibility, like what you're saying, Manny, is making it a little more accessible for people.
Because
Right.
uh, only 20% of our population can really afford paying
Yeah.
for yoga classes.
Yeah.
So you have the 80%. What are we going to do with them? So
Yeah. Especially if it can really benefit them.
yes, especially if they have conditions. Yeah.
Hmm. So something to keep in mind as far as figuring out what to charge. It's commensurate with your area, your training, your experience, and the venue, and
Affordability of the student. Huh?
sure, yeah. Um,
Economics. Yeah.
within
Economic.
reason, I guess. Yeah, I'll put that in there. Yeah, I mean,
Maybe in the
Mhm.
in the state it's not really applicable because somehow you are well off there.
You
But
know,
in the Philippines,
it's interesting because I've tried to use that idea, like, kind of asking people, well, what can you afford? And it doesn't work very well because it's undervalued.
no.
If you make it too too easy. It's undervalued. So it doesn't stick. So yeah, that's what I found. So
You know,
you have to have
I have
give yourself a range. Like
yeah,
you can give yourself a range that you work in, and then you can slide the scale. That
yeah,
would be a good way to do it, right?
yeah.
But as far as teaching in studios, you're it's going to be whatever they pay that studio. And some studios pay more, some studios pay less.
I have the cheapest prices in the market.
I
Even
know,
the
I
boutique
remember you
yoga.
said that.
Yeah, you can see at my Facebook
The
account.
website.
Compare it to the others here. I'm only charging maximum of 500 pesos for walk-ins, and the others are charging from 750 to 900 pesos for walk-ins. But
Mm-hmm.
that is for drop-ins, no? And if you get uh, class passes, it gets cheaper. And I have the most complete equipment that you can find in the country.
Yeah, that's good. That's amazing.
And the facilities, even in that studio, its facilities are clean. It's really
Mm-hmm.
big.
It's a nice gym.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, especially at the beginning of your yoga teaching for you, Kyla and Amanda, is to spend some time giving. Spend time.
I have a tip also to the girls.
Yes.
Teach your, try to convert your friends.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah.
It's good to teach with friendly faces in front of you,
Mhm.
so you
Yeah.
won't have that
It's comforting. Yeah.
comforting to have.
So teach family, teach friends, offer free classes
Yes,
um, whenever you can, and it'll give you experience as well as create that service mind, that service approach to your teaching.
and what Amy taught us is make notes of your sequence, so you won't forget it.
Take notes. Yeah. Write
Take
it
notes,
down.
write it down.
Yeah. Okay, so niyamas now. Niyamas are considerations and attitudes that are directed to you. These are more personal. So saucha is cleanliness, and not and that goes for a body and mind.
That's why I
Samtosha,
asked 10 minutes from you to because I have to take a shower before doing any yoga.
yeah, it's
That
okay.
is a practice that is I have learned
Oh,
only.
that's your practice. Oh, that's
Yeah,
good. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and it feels good, right?
yeah.
And samtosha is contentment or modesty or acceptance of, I don't know, whatever your current situation.
That's very applicable to the practice itself in the poses, the
Right.
symptosis.
Accepting where you are, accepting your abilities, right? Your limits as well as your strengths. And I feel like that gives way to gratitude
Yes.
because you appreciate what you have where you are. And tapas literally means to heat the body, to cleanse it. So this is let's see what it says here about tapas. I like the idea of tapas when it comes to sweating. So it's almost it gives a it adds value to sweating. It not for its own sake, but for the sake of knowing that you're cleansing your body. And it's probably the reasoning behind hot yoga with the heated room, practicing in a heated room. I'm not advocating for it, but I'm thinking that's probably what the reasoning behind it is. Okay, so I wanted to read about tapas. Another form of tapas is paying attention to what we eat. Eating when we are not hungry is the opposite of tapas. Attention to body posture, attention to eating habits, attention to breathing patterns. These are all tapas that help to prevent the buildup of rubbish in the body, including excess weight and shortness of breath. Tapas makes the whole body fit and well functioning. Okay. Svadhyaya is the study of yourself. And we've talked about this before. So study of yourself, excuse me, suggests like contemplation, meditation. But we need a reference point. I feel like there's only so much that we can go in a vacuum when we're studying ourselves. So reference point could be scripture, it could be other belief systems that we ascribe to, or other practices that we find valuable. Let's see what it says about Svadhyaya.
I interpret
Yeah.
maybe the self-study, like what you're doing. We are reading Visikachar's Heart of Yoga.
Yeah.
She's presenting a different perspective from what we have learned in me. Although I've read him before, I did not really appreciate that book until now, because the introduction of yoga to me is asana based. We directly went into asanas, but not knowing what is the reason behind what yoga about yoga. So yeah, it's a good, even though you've been practicing yoga for so many years or even teaching, you always have to return to Swadhyaya to learn more of yourself.
And life is always changing.
Yeah.
You have to reevaluate your life, sometimes more than others. Big changes in life can cause us to really stop and think about, where we are and where we want to go. And so, yeah, this what it says is great here. He says, all learning, all reflection, all contact that helps us to learn more about yourself is svadhyaya. In the context of the niyama, we find the term often translated as the study of ancient texts. Yes, yoga does instruct us to read the ancient texts. Why? Because we cannot always just sit down and contemplate things. We need reference points. For many, this may be the Bible or a book that is of personal significance. For others, it may be the Yoga Sutra. The Yoga Sutra says, for instance, that as we progress in our self-examination, we will gradually find a link with the divine laws and with the prophets who revealed them. And since mantra are often recited for this purpose, we sometimes find svadhyaya translated as the repetition of mantras. So this is the first time we've mentioned mantras in our discussions. I find mantras to be really helpful. I don't use them all the time or regularly, but there are moments that I will pull it out as a tool. So, for example, sometimes I get in darkness, where you feel darkness. It could come from doubt, from fear, from negative emotions. And in those times, either a song that is meaningful to me, or sometimes it's at night while I'm in bed and I wake up at 3 a.m. and I can feel the negative trying to come in, and I will actually do Om Namah Shivaya mantra in my mind for 108 or however many it takes, and it helps to pull me away from that. So not only that's a simple one, but it has a long history, hundreds of years, and has been very powerful. So Shiva is a god, and from what I've read from his description, he seems like the Christ. Seems like the Messiah. So I feel comfortable with that because I am Christian. And so if there's something that works for you, and also there is value in memorization, memorizing scripture, memorizing phrases, memorizing any kind of mantra that fosters what you need, right? Going to be what you need. And that's a personal discovery that you can make for yourself. Any questions on that? But I'll emphasize that there is value in memorizing things. There is value in that. Very helpful. Just another one of your tools. All right. And then the last in here, and these 4 or 5, we each have 5, right? Yeah, each one has 5. Which is interesting to me because it seems like there are 10 commandments and there are 10 yamas and niyamas. And I'm really curious, well, someday I'm going to sit down and see if I can link them. Like, not harming, thou shalt not kill. Asteya, non-stealing, thou shalt not steal. Brahmacharya would be, what is it? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Non-stealing, truthfulness, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy brother. Right? It seems like you could make those associations. I'd have to sit down and do it in more detail, but I just think that's interesting that there's 10 and 10.
Sometimes I use the yama niyama as a theme. For example, this week, all the teachers will be talking about ahimsa and how ahimsa applies to the class, to the practice.
Mm-hmm.
So he's giving us.
That is very excellent. You know, I read a research paper that's really important. I read a research paper of healthcare professionals who were yoga practitioners, and a very small percentage of them knew what the yamas and niyamas are. So it's really important to include them. It really gives a lot of depth to the teaching. Hey, so. I'm teaching. And then let's go on to questions about that.
No, okay.
Did I finish? Oh, I didn't finish Ishvara
Yeah,
Pranidhana.
we finished the yama niyama.
Yeah, let me finish this last one.
I wanna go. I wanna go.
Isvara, paridhana.
Ishvara Pranidhana. So that it means to lay all your actions at the feet of God. That's the direct translation. And it's very related. It says here, this samtosha is so important because when we know we've done our best, we can leave the rest to a higher power. So in the context of the niyamas, we can define Ishvara Pranidhana as the attitude of a person who usually offers the fruits of his or her action to God in daily prayer. And I will reveal to you a little secret, not a little secret, but a little teaching, guru from me, is that when I was first starting teaching, I would pray before class starts. During the breathing, when they're breathing, I would say a little prayer, help me to teach this class, help me to guide me. And so many times people would say, that was just what I needed. You did exactly what I needed, or I really needed this part of the body. You addressed it. So if this is something that you can incorporate, I know we are all people of faith. It's very good. I feel like it's blessed my teaching to include God in the teaching practice. So you don't have to, but you know you can be very skilled and be a good teacher. But if that's something that your heart is open to, I recommend it. Hey, so
Do you
going
do you
on.
do you share your prayer to your students? Do they pray
No,
with you?
no, it's just my quiet little one. It's because at the very beginning, sometimes I was nervous, and I needed that little bit of help. So I would pray for a little bit before I started teaching, before I would start, start the class. So, and at the end, I would say a prayer of gratitude for everyone that was in class. And yeah, yeah. Okay. So, chapter 12, the world exists to set us free, and this has the other 4 limbs of the 8-limbed path of Ashtanga Yoga. And pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Those are the last 4 limbs. And I'm going to explain each one, but I want to emphasize that it doesn't happen, it's not sequential. Like you don't have to do pratyahara before you can do dharana, before you can do dhyana, before samadhi. It's not a recipe like do this, do that, do this, do that. It's not predictable. It can change. And these have to do with the workings of the mind and the senses and your attention. So pratyahara is to withdraw from the senses. This is most easily done because when we close our eyes. So we're taking out the sight, and it immediately brings our attention inside. It could also mean not allowing yourself to be distracted by sound, like that we have sometimes sound going on around me. Being able to compartmentalize and not be drawn away by those distractions. It can be not always wanting to give in to your food cravings, right? Because that's not always good for us if it gets out of control. So being able to be aware of those cravings and be more mindful about them. Do you guys have any examples? Yeah.
I don't know. This made me think of something that I did once, which was such a good experience because, I feel like my dog, sorry. I get like stimulated easily by like things and not like ADHD type stimulated, but like, I'm fascinated by things like sounds and, so it's hard for me to,
Which is good.
yeah, sometimes it's hard for me to like calm down. But have you guys ever done like a sensory deprivation tank?
I've never done it. I've heard about it.
I did one like I think it was maybe 2 years ago, and it was such a good experience for me. Like, so what basically it is like, I don't know if I'll just explain it briefly because I don't know if everyone knows what it is, but
yeah, great to explain. I don't think Manny knows what that is. Amanda, you're probably familiar.
It's like this tank that is completely soundproof, light proof, and it's filled with water that is like saturated with salt or like some type of mineral so that the buoyancy, like you're basically like you float without any effort.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you don't hear anything, you don't really feel anything, your body's like completely relaxed and you can't say anything and you just stand there for like 2 hours and
that's a long time.
It didn't feel like any amount of time. Like after I like relaxed, like I was just like I really felt like I was like in a womb, if that makes sense. But in like a not like sloshing around type of way.
Yeah.
But just like I barely moved. Like I didn't even like float and like at first, like getting in was like, oh my gosh, I was a little nervous because I always had like this fear of like being in dark, murky waters. But after a while and I just relaxed, like I think at one point I fell asleep
I was
for
going
the
to ask you if you fell asleep.
yeah, for the remaining time. And I couldn't believe I was sleeping on water, like not drowning. It was like kind of freaky, but it was like such a good experience. And like it was exactly kind of what you were saying, like withdrawing from the senses, because it was like I was feeling nothing, but also just feeling like centered, which is really nice, you
How
know.
did it feel on your skin? Did you
It felt
feel wet?
I didn't feel wet, and I think the temperature of the water was like the right. It's like for the human body temperature. Like
Oh,
it, I
okay.
didn't feel cold. I didn't feel hot at
Hmm.
all. It felt very like, it was on point. It was perfect.
So
So
you didn't, well, it didn't stimulate you in any way, either from
no,
or cold. So it was
yeah,
like completely the same temperature as your body, sort of.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
and it was like
So,
you're also just like completely naked too, so you don't feel like any clothing on you. You don't feel any garments like tight restricting you, just like there. And you like shower beforehand and stuff, and when you get out. But
yeah.
it was like, super relaxing. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I think it was only like $90 or something.
Yeah, I want to try it sometime. I've heard about it.
Yeah, it was
Um,
really relaxing. I did it with a friend, and they actually had a completely different experience for me, which is hilarious. But they're not a very calm person. They're
have they
so
panicked?
they panicked. They were like, I got water in my eye. I was like, I was like, I couldn't wait to get out. I was like, I could have stayed there forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That
but
is very interesting. Sabrina, our Amanda's sister, does it with Christopher.
mhm.
I know they've done it a couple of times and they like it. I've
Yeah,
never tried it. I need to try it. I don't
yeah.
know if they have those in the Philippines, Manny.
No. But
No.
I experienced that when I was still doing scuba diving.
Scuba diving?
Yeah. It's really quiet there. And it's really,
Mm.
can only hear yourself breathe.
Yeah, scuba diving is very interesting. I've done it one time. First of all, you have the pressure of the water on you.
Yes.
And then you have this thing in your mouth and you have to focus on how you're breathing because you can't breathe through your nose,
Yes.
right? You have to breathe
Yes.
through your mouth, which is not what we do naturally. So you have to focus or you could panic. I feel like it takes a certain kind of a focus to not panic, right? Because otherwise you're in trouble.
The
So,
new equipment now, they have the full face mask now. That
oh,
is,
do they? So you can
your
breathe
nose.
through your nose.
It's a new thing now. I haven't tried it because I've stopped diving 10 years ago.
Okay.
But the new equipment now, you can now breathe with your nose. It's a full
Okay.
face mask. The whole
Interesting.
face.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so pratyahara is valuable. So, Kyla, would you say that it helped you be um, less easily drawn through your senses after that one experience?
Yeah, I felt when I left, I felt so calm. Like everything was just as it was. Like I wasn't like I was walking around the streets of a place I'd been many times. It was just like it felt like I was like on a cloud. Like I was just like, yeah, yeah.
That is so interesting. Yeah, I want to try it. So, pratyahara. So what that prepares us for mentally is to be able to focus your mind, right? Because the senses and the mind can compete with each other. So when you've subdued your tendency to respond to senses, then you can have more mental focus. And then dharana is to be able to focus your mind in one direction. And dhyana is that point where you are exchanging information between yourself and what you're focusing on. And then samadhi is the union or absorption with your object of attention. And let me just show you a picture that explains it right here. So this would be dharana. You're focusing on this object, right? This is you. This is your attention. This is your object of attention. This is, what's the word for it? Theoretical. And then dhyana is when you're having an exchange, you're learning, you're getting information about this object, and you're also focusing on it, you're getting information, there's an exchange of knowledge, you're learning about it. And then this is samadhi, when it's absorption, where you feel unified with your object of attention. Now they describe, Desikachar describes dhyana and dharana as, and even samadhi as non-linear. So you could be right here right away, depending on your mind state or what it is you're focusing on. Or you could be here and then right here, or you could be here and then back to here. So it's non-linear, and it's not, you can't regiment it. You can't control it. It's just something that happens. So the asana, the pranayama, the work that you do is just priming you to be able to go into these different states. It's giving you the best situation possible to be contemplative, basically. Okay. Let me see. Okay, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi cannot be practiced. I cannot simply sit down and say, right now I'm going to do dharana. I can, though, create the right conditions to help bring about a state of dharana. I can practice asana and pranayama that, according to the Yoga Sutra, create favorable conditions for my mind to enter the state described. In order to experience dharana and dhyana, the mind must first be in a particular condition. I have to first allow the many things that are going on in my mind to settle so that my mind can become quiet. The workings of the mind are too powerful. I cannot enter a state of dharana. If I try to enter a state of dharana by forcing the mind while there are still many disparate things churning around it, then I can get into great difficulties. For this reason, the Yoga Sutra suggests the practice of asana and pranayama as preparation for dharana, because these influence mental activities and create space in the crowded schedule of the mind. Once dharana has occurred, dhyana and samadhi can follow. Okay? So your objective as a yoga teacher is to create those conditions. Yes.
I want to share something with you guys that happened yesterday that I'm sharing it with the intent that maybe you guys could help me figure out exactly maybe what it was. But I did a practice yesterday, and after, it was really good. It was just like, intuitive. I didn't have anything set, but just like kind of just like focused kind of on my hips and just feeling more grounded. And after, when I was like in Shavasana, I did my pranayama, and I wouldn't even call it a sleep, but it was more like a little trance. And I remember I had like I wouldn't call it I didn't feel asleep, but I was having like visions, and I felt this like weight, and it was like a physical feeling. So I guess I'm trying to like, maybe you guys can put a word to it, but I felt this like wave of just like energy in my body, and it was like very like, it was just powerful. I don't know but I felt it from like head to toe, and it was just for like a second, and then it was gone. But I remember thinking, oh my god, what was that? But that's it. And I wonder, and I don't know what exactly how it happened or like what caused it, but I felt it like, who can I tell this to?
Yeah.
I told anybody,
awesome.
but I was like, I feel like this is the right group to tell.
Yeah, did it have any words? Did any words come to your mind at the same time? Any thoughts?
No, it just felt,
Was
I don't know, it
energy,
was just powerful. It was
your
just
energy?
powerful. Yeah, very
And you
powerful.
say it was from your head to your toes and it was quick?
It was quick. It was just like a burst.
Did it have a feeling of warmth or heat?
I would say heat. Like it was like fire. Like it was just like I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It was amazing. I just
That's
don't know
cool.
and I don't know what I did for it to happen.
Yeah, it seems kind of mysterious, but it is definitely energy. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it was a combination of physical and chemical, biochemical
Release. They were released
release.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something. I don't know. It was awesome, but
yeah, it's like a high.
it was. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
share that just as like a little testimony of
Good
just
for you.
sometimes your practice just gets so good that things happen and you don't even know it.
Well, good for you.
You will have more of that, Kyla, in the
Yeah.
future.
That's
And my
great.
practice wasn't even like crazy or anything. It was like it was so simple. It was just, it just was what felt right. It was what I needed because I had been feeling overwhelmed this past week. So I think maybe it was just like I did what my body needed and my body responded. Yeah.
Could be.
Did you experience that too, Amy?
I have experienced it, well, the most in small ways, yeah. Dramatically, I had one dramatic experience, and it was during a teacher training. So when I'm in these immersive teacher trainings, everything is affected. I eat differently. This one particular one was 2 weeks long, and it was like 6 hours of yoga a day, getting up early. I had to drive to LA, and I'm eating really well because I have to, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to sustain it physically. So at the end of that training, we had a beach day, and I went off to be by myself just to sit for a moment. And yeah, I just closed my eyes and this fire came down. That's why I was asking if there was heat. Came down through the crown of my head and just down all the way to my body, but mostly from my head to my heart. There was just like this of heat. And mine had words that came with it. And it was just this overwhelming feeling of love. It really did feel like God's love just coming down. And I think that happens too when we take care of ourselves, when we honor ourselves, when we take care, when you listen to your body, and the love multiplies. It's like when we love ourselves, we open ourselves to God's love as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
I have similar
that?
events.
Yeah, tell us about your experience.
No, I'm not a person who easily cry. I'm very seldom that I shed tears in my life. But one practice, the first time I did a complete split with hands up. So I'm so happy that I was able to do the split. That was 2 years. I'm already practicing for 2 years. And then during the Savasana, I do not know. I just burst into tears, and then I'm almost, and I called the teacher. Why am I crying?
Why am I crying?
Because I don't know why. Because I just keep on crying. I don't even know why. Oh, then I read why.
Yeah.
What is that experience? Is that it says that in our chakra, all the storage of all those frustrations, all those things are on around the hips. So, I mean, finally, I've released my hips, open up, those things just came out, and somehow my body got relief, and my mind and my emotion got affected by it. So
Uh,
that's a good experience that you can relive. That every time you practice, you become aware of those experience, and
mhm.
you attach yourself to those emotions.
Yeah, and it becomes your practice becomes something you want to do even more
Yeah,
because it has given you something that
you
you
learn about yourself more.
yeah, it's given you something you can't get anywhere else, right? And it's an amazing feeling of self-sufficiency almost. Not that you depend only on yourself, but self-empowerment, maybe that's a better word. That you have control over how you feel and your own progress and your own development, your own growth, and your own access to higher power and to those positive feelings. You can generate positive feelings through your practice, right? I remember the moments when in my early years of practicing, when I understood, when I learned that I could manage my own depression, that I could manage my own emotions, my own struggles, inner struggles. I remember when I learned that being still and not having to do anything and just being in the moment meant that I was loved just as I was. That stillness was not, was because we are of infinite value, of infinite worth, just in stillness, in silence, and without doing anything, without earning it, without working for it, without striving, without accomplishing anything. Just being in the moment, being still, we are of eternal worth. I remember that moment. So there's these little moments that you will learn things that you need to learn, right? It's not going to be what I need, what I learned may not be what you needed to learn. So it'll be your own personal, like what Manny experienced, what Kyla experienced. And Amanda, if you have anything you want to share, feel free. But it's going to be your own personal collection of lessons that will keep you connected to your practice. It's become a very personal thing. So good. Thank you, you guys. So good discussion. Do you guys want to practice? Want to do a short practice? Yeah.
Can I have like a few minutes to,
Yeah, I'm going to put my mom to bed. And so let's take 5 and then we'll do a short practice. Okay? All right. Hold on. So to the top of your mat. Feet are wide. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back, bend your knees into a half squat. And rise up, arms overhead. One more like that, forward fold. Flat back, inhale. Bend your knees and rise up. Good. Hands to your heart. Pause here. And bring your feet in so that they're parallel right under your hips. So we're going to go into khapalabhati breath in chair pose. So remember the khapalabhati breath. It's a quick exhalation. Shoulders are relaxed. You're tall through your spine. Okay, so we're going to go into chair pose. We're just going to do very short khapalabhati, not too long. Bend your knees, arms overhead, and let's begin khapalabhati breath. Forward fold. Relax here. Just take nice, easy breaths. And inhale, flat back. Left foot back, arms up. We're in warrior one on the right. Breathe here. And hands to the mat. Step the left foot forward, flat back. Back into the chair, khapalabhati. Begin. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway. Right foot back. Arms reach up, warrior one on the left and hold. And hands to the mat, right foot forward, flat back. Last time, into the chair pose, khapalabhati breath, and begin. Forward fold, relax. Flat back, inhale. Step it back to plank. Oh, my hair. Chaturanga, come down. Up dog. And down dog. Take some breaths here. Let's inhale the right leg up. We can bend the knee. Open that hip. Step it forward. Warrior two. Reverse warrior. Side angle. And dial that right hip in. Let's shift forward into Ardha Chandrasana. Pick up the left leg. Take your time. You can have a block under your right hand. Option here to reach for that left foot, left hand to left foot. It's optional. And then press the foot up. And release, step it back. Plank vinyasa here. Take a few breaths in down dog. And inhale, left leg up, bend the knee. Step it forward, warrior two. Come on up. Good. Reverse warrior. Side angle. And shift forward, pick up that back leg, Ardha Chandrasana option to bend the knee and reach for your foot. Good. And release, step it back. Plank. Last vinyasa here. Down dog, take some breaths. I know that was a challenging move. I kind of threw that at you. So let's set the left knee down. Come into a side plank variation. So left knee, left hand on the mat. Take your right leg up and reach behind for your foot. So let's revisit that position. Easier version here. So you're going to bend the right knee and catch that right foot in your right hand behind you. Then press the foot away from your glute. It's going to pull that right shoulder back. Couple more breaths. And release. Good, let's switch it out. So just go on your right knee, right hand down, left arm, left leg up. Just switching legs. Good. And reach back for your left foot to left hand. Press it back. Hold here. And release. Come onto your knees. Let's do a supported back bend. So we haven't been practicing a lot. This is not a long class, so we're just going to do a gentle supported back bend. Hands on your lower back. Press the elbows together. Lift your chest. Look at the ceiling and take 5 breaths here. Press the hips forward. 2 more breaths. And lift up child's pose. Fold it over. And roll up. Now let's take your left leg in front, right foot tucks to the inner thigh. Janushirsasana. Arms up. Fold it over. So your left leg is straight, your right knee is bent. Your right foot is on your inner thigh. Fold forward. And roll up. Slide your right knee to the front, left foot to the other side of your right knee, and twist into the left knee. Let's switch it out. Right leg forward, left foot is to your inner thigh. Reach it up and fold over that right leg. And rise up. Good. Slide the left knee forward, right foot to the other side. Twist to your right. Breathe here. And unwind. Both legs forward. Paschimottanasana. Forward fold. And roll yourself up. Onto our backs. Happy baby. Oh, excuse me, here we go. Feet face the ceiling, knees are out wide. And number 4, right ankle on the left thigh. And switch it out, left ankle on the right thigh. Hug it in. And both knees into your chest. Take your arms out to a T, palms down. Both knees to your right, head turns to the left. Optional here if you want to extend your left leg and then hold on to your big toe with your right hand. And coming back, knees to the left, head to the right. Optional to extend the right leg and hold on to your big toe. And settle in. Let's take a few minutes for Shavasana. Just about 3 minutes. Settle in. And let's do 3-part yogic breath. Inhale to your chest, then your belly. Exhale from your belly to your chest. Stay with it for a few more cycles until it becomes smooth and natural and easy. So you inhale from top to bottom, and you exhale from bottom to top. And eventually letting go of the breath and just being present. Give yourself a point of focus. Maybe it's simply turning the inner gaze to your third eye center. Or if you want to contemplate an idea, a value, a higher power. And be singular in your attention, just like you're singular when you're paying attention to your breath. It's a small, quiet feeling. Completely relax the body. Let's take a big inhalation. Start circling your ankles and wrists. You can stretch if that feels good. And eventually bring your knees in, roll to your side, and come up to your seat. So let's practice nadi shodhana, taking your right hand, your index finger at the base of your thumb. Take your thumb to your right nostril, inhale through the left. Plug your left with your middle and ring finger, let go of your thumb, and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Plug your right with your thumb, release the other fingers, and exhale through the left. That makes one cycle. In left, out right, in right, out left. Go ahead and move through 3 to 5 more cycles on your own. You want to come to the very top of the inhale before you switch nostrils. And when you're done, just rest your hands on your lap or on your knees. Maintain that focus, that attention to your breath. And simply observe your breath, observe your mind. May this feeling of peace, of clarity, of introspection stay with you as you go into the rest of your evening and day. May it be a source of comfort, of wisdom, and of joy. Thank you for sharing your practice. Namaste. All right, you guys. Short practice, but I hope it was effective. We'll do more. We'll do more incorporating pranayama throughout the sequences. All right, you guys. We won't see you until next year.
I know. Merry Christmas, you guys, and
Merry
happy New
Christmas,
Year.
everyone.
Merry
Enjoy.
Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Be safe. Lots of love.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.